My name's Paul Finch. I've in business. I've been in technology for some 40 years, and I've been running companies for 25. So people call me a bit of a serial entrepreneur. But I've also been involved in charity and fundraising activities for some 30 years now. So, and I always have felt, and Roundtable was part, I suppose, my entry into that some 30 years ago. And I've always felt that doing good for others is quite cathartic, actually. And I was able to put that to good use. This time, 7 years ago, it's around about exactly now, actually, it might be between the 8th and the 10th, I was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer, which came as a little bit of a surprise. If you don't know what staging means, stage 4 means you are on high risk of death, basically. Stage 4. Stage 3, so stage 1 is you've got a tumor. Stage 2, the tumor is threatening lymph nodes. Stage 3, it's gone into your lymph system and is in danger of breaching other walls. And if you're talking about the colon and the bowel, then it's in danger of breaching the colon. Stage 4, it's metastatic. And that's when you're potentially in quite a lot of trouble. So bowel cancer goes to lung, secondary goes to lung. So that was the situation I was facing in this time 7 years ago. I was given a 10% chance of making 5 years. I was also threatened with having an operation which would have removed all my inners and be on 2 colostomy bags for the rest of my days. And they were citing how wonderful that was because I was quite young in their book, and wouldn't it be great if they had a youngster in their eyes sporting how actually you can carry on with life with 2 bags. All of that was quite daunting, and for the first, I would say, 36, 48 hours, I probably sank into a hole emotionally I've never been to in my entire life. When you're sort of used to running your own company and show, I guess you have a certain get up and drive. There's quite a few of you here that I know do just that, and I'm sure you have some empathy what I've just said. So to find yourself in, I was actually almost freaking out actually, because I couldn't. One of my biggest issues is claustrophobia actually, and the realization I was going to be in and out of machines for the next God knows what period, as well as the aspects of life threatening. However, 48 hours later, I woke up on the Monday morning and decided, well, it's not an ideal situation. My family are a little bit concerned, of course. But I couldn't live the whatever little time I had. I wasn't going to live my life like that. So I decided the clinicians can have my body to play with. You realize when you're facing some tough medical conditions that actually there is no guarantees on anything. You are just an experiment. You are, hopefully they're using well-proven experiments on you, but there's no guarantee that you will come out the other side in a set form. So what I learned quite quickly, and if anybody ever has anything, then actually establish what trials are going on and make yourself open to such concepts. So one of the first questions to me, would I be open to trials? My answer to that was anything that would avoid this operation, as long as it wasn't too what do I say, leading edge drugs. I wasn't particularly interested in sort of, I was already on meaty drugs. So that was the start. And that was the attitude I adopted. And I think it paid great dividends for me. To cut a long story short on that one, over the period of the next 15 months, I had 15 months of hardcore chemotherapy. You certainly don't feel good when you're taking that stuff. I also had 6 weeks of daily radiotherapy, which, if you don't know what that is effectively microwaving you. So I couldn't sit down. I still struggle some 7 years later, actually, with some side effects from that. And the chemotherapy does interfere with some of your nerve endings. So in this weather, my hands and my feet are struggling somewhat, but all of that I deem as trivial. And I think this is the flip you can make in your own mind, that actually the alternative is pretty severe, i.e. you're not around. So I am actually a clear, and I've not had the operation. So and when I got that news in October 2014, the surgeon came bouncing into the room. He said, well, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. And I said, oh, okay, what would you like first? And I said, well, what's the good news then? He said, well, the good news is you're clear. I went, oh, right, brilliant. So what's the bad news? He said, well, the bad news is for me. I'm a surgeon. I like cutting things out of people, and I'm not going to get the chance to play on you. So you know, it was all jovial and all the rest of it. But so once we get over and at that moment in time, I realised I've been riding on a cushion of anxiety. And I got used to living like that, but actually just quietly getting on with my life. So I somehow had managed to separate the physical aspects of this to the mental aspects. And I, at the time, was running a company. So the surgeon at the time said to me, would you mind raising a bit of money to support our research? So we had a bit of a chat, and I was with my sort of charitable background, and I said, yes, of course. I said, what were you looking at? And he said, well, perhaps you can just raise a bit of money to support our research. And I said, why don't I raise a bit of money that continually supports your research? So that was my immediate response. Was actually, I was so grateful for what, you know, the outcome that I achieved, that I was going to do something to help others. The reason so I view myself incredibly lucky, and the reason it could have been so bad the other way is actually I was caught very late. So for me, this is all about getting people to raise awareness of themselves and actually take action faster, because bowel cancer is one of the biggest killers, because it's caught so late. There's hardly any symptoms. So, you know, things to be mindful of are blood in your poo. Sorry about this for breakfast, but it's just the realities of it all. But if you notice abdominal pains and things like that, then do go and get them checked out. And that's part of my work. So when I was on treatment, I was knee deep in the radiotherapy side, and I decided to help myself feel better, to run a carry night in a North London restaurant, which I enjoy, called the Sitara in Archway. If you don't know it, it's a great restaurant. They do things a little bit differently. He only runs it as a jazz bar. And of course, all my friends and family decided to come in and help. And on the evening, I have no idea. I guess it was a kind of a way of trying to help myself feel better. And it was just great having your friends and family around you. God knows what people are coping with at the moment with this pandemic and not able to do such a thing, but hopefully we'll be out of that soon. But I wore a bright red pair of trousers on the night, and just in case, I think you can just, there they are. I've got them on today. And my son is a currency trader. I've got two sons, both lads, and their friends were supporting me. And one of my sons turned around to me and said, "Good God, Dad, what are you wearing?" And the banter started flying around. And I turned around to him and said, "Do you know what, Rob? As it's your birthday coming up, I think we should have a boys' night out wearing red trousers just to embarrass you." And all his friends suddenly went, "What a fantastic idea, Paul. We actually quite like your red trousers, so let's do it." And we did. And we held, there's about 30 of us got together just to embarrass my son in a North London pub. And I decided to turn it into a bit of a fundraiser. And we raised 1,200 quid on the night. And the management of the pub came over and said, "What on earth's going on?" And they thought we'd explain what had happened. And they said, "What a great cause. You ought to do something with this." So in essence, when I was approached by the surgeon to say, would I raise a bit of money for him, I said, what about this concept? We'll create a campaign called Red Trouser Day, and see if we can create this vehicle that keeps going. And Denise is kindly, unfortunately, the videos. So here's the branding. So that was it took about a year of the planning. And it's got three mantras really: raise awareness, raise some funding to support the research, and more importantly, have fun. I can tell you now that if you're facing anything difficult in your life, the best way of overcoming some of the anxiety that will come with that is to inject some fun into your life, and or doing something really positive. And many people like to take on challenges, but don't know how, or don't know how to go about the fundraising activity. So my experience on making things happen like that, we've created this vehicle now that people can get on board. They've usually been touched by cancer, or particularly bowel cancer, and want to do something to help. And we've got all sorts, and I won't go into the full remit of everything we're doing. But to me, it was providing this vehicle to have fun. And that seems to be the switch point for people digging themselves out of a pit of despair into sort of suddenly realizing you can take a bit of control. So I think sense of control is absolutely key when you're facing adversity, but having fun was there. So just some stats for you. We've raised 170k in 5 or 6 years now. It was a campaign that started 6 years ago. It became a full charity 5 years ago. So we are now fully regulated under the Charities Commission. And we have a growing community of people. We push most of the money towards the Royal Marsden's research. And I was live yesterday with some very senior, sorry, not yesterday, Wednesday, Denise was there as well on Wednesday evening, with some very senior clinicians from the Royal Marsden who are educating our community about, certainly what's happening for people right now in this time. And I really think the charity is about to explode, actually, in terms of its contribution. It's a total volunteer thing as well, which I think also adds some flavour. So this is all in and around. Everybody's got day jobs, so and I run a company as well. But I guess I must be starting to run out of time, Denise. But I just wanted to share one thing. One of the books, can you see that? It's called "You Are the Placebo." I don't know if you're familiar with this chap, Dr. Joe Dispenza. It certainly made a massive difference to my personal well-being. He goes into the science behind how you can inject new behaviors into your soul. And it's got the brain science in there, and again goes into the meditations that support it. It was, and I love the title, "You Are the Placebo." You can massively change any material, whether it be health or mental stuff that's going on for you. So Dr. Joe Dispenza, his meditations are extreme, but very powerful.